Well, April was a much slower month than I thought it would be, and that was even anticipating a huge step back on content production compared to the way that February and March were. Well, it dropped quite a bit, especially on the second channel, and I'm still catching up on basically everything for May. But in my defense, I finally started my new job in April, so between that and needing to take a bit of a break from content for potential burnout reasons, it all just kind of makes sense. I can't say April was my favorite month, but for all intents and purposes, things are going well, and I'm right in the place where I basically need to be for the moment. Personally, I have some changes that I need to make in order to reach some personal goals, but we can talk about all of that at the end of this video. As for the channels, however, despite the big step back, things are going overall pretty decently, so let's talk about all of that now, beginning with last month's videos and highlights. I did post 3 update videos, pretty much just like typical, the state of affairs and the 2 bi-weekly updates, nothing new there. On the main channel, I posted 10 videos, so still pretty comparable to what I was doing the last couple of months prior. On the second channel, however, was where the big step down happened, and that was because I posted 6 videos with no live streams to go along with them, compared to, for example, March's 12 videos and 5 live streams. As for some highlights of some things that came out over those 2 channels, because nothing came out on the third channel over April, on the main channel, I did my Wheel of Time diaries for the last book of the series, and the last one of those was a particularly emotional moment, as you might imagine. I also did a video talking about how I'm starting to read Discworld in May, and that video popped off a little bit more than I expected. It started off slow, but then it popped off later. And then the most impactful video was talking about a life update working for Christopher Rocchio now, clearing the air, a disclosure video. That is what that was. On the second channel, I also posted a brief review of Alan Wake, which did quite well, and I also notably did a short movie review of The Passion of the Christ, my first time watching that movie. That was a pretty off-the-cuff review similar to my Project Hail Mary one, but which ended up going very well, and I was actually very happy with that video. As for the statistics themselves of how my channels performed over the course of April, the main channel did pretty dang solid. I got 2,100 views over the course of the month, up just 3% from the previous month. And I'll also note here, because there's not enough statistics to talk about from the third channel to make a dedicated section, I did get 1 view on my one video that exists over on the third channel this month as well. So that's also something that happened. I got nearly 260 watch hours, which was down 6% from last month, but that's a pretty small drop in considering that the view count was basically the same. That means that my average view duration was still quite up there, especially compared to 2025. My average view duration this month, or this year in general, has been pretty good, so I'm happy about that. 41,500 impressions, up about 6% from last month, so again, pretty comparable there, and definitely comparable to the view count increase as well. So, you know, things are doing quite well. The one aspect of statistics on the main channel that were a little bit more questionable was the subscribers, where I actually gained 11 subscribers over the course of April, but I also happened to lose 8 throughout the entire month as well. I noted in the last state of affairs that I was actually at 1,154 subscribers at the end of March, but I lost like 3 subscribers or 2, I don't remember. I lost a few like on the first day of April, right at the very beginning of the month, like in the handful of hours in between the end of March and compiling the information for that state of affairs, which was quite strange. So I did manage to have a net positive this month, but it was pretty rocky getting there. I have no idea what the lost subscribers were from. My guess is it's from the bulk of people who subscribed in March off of the collaboration I did with Samwise, and who decided that my content just wasn't for them, or that they weren't interested in actually watching any of it, and so unsubscribed. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was primarily where the drop off came from, but that's basically just a guess. I have no clue, because none of my new videos have like any inherent subscriber count, so nobody's choosing to unsubscribe from videos that they're watching from me. So I don't know what it is. It's just something that has happened, unfortunately. Still a net positive, though. I've not had a net negative month in like 4 years or something like this. So fingers crossed that can continue, but it was looking pretty shaky there for most of April. As for the second channel, it had a little bit more of a decrease, which makes sense because I didn't do any live streams and because I posted half as many videos. Only 463 views, down 37.5% from the previous month. 36.5 watch hours, which is down over 50% from the previous month, and 18,000 impressions, down 77% from the previous month. So, you know, in a way, like my click-through rate over on the second channel was actually really good. It was much better this month than last month, all things considered, because a lot less impressions, but not as sharp of a decrease on the view count. And the watch hour decrease was primarily because I didn't do any live streams, so none of those like chances for people to be watching for, you know, a handful of hours at a time, as opposed to like, you know, 10 or 15 minutes at a time. So that definitely makes a big difference. I also had a net gain of 1 subscriber on the second channel, putting me at 157 at this point, and that has remained stably and comfortably there for quite a while. And I appreciate everybody who has checked out the channels over the month, of course. As for last month's writing, you know, there's not a whole ton to talk about here. I did get a lot of review stuff written. No fiction stuff was actually written, but I did get one new story for the tributaries that I'm working on the structural outline for at the moment. But we'll talk a little bit more about writing related stuff at the end of this video. As for the review writing that I did over the month, I wrote a total of 8,341 words in April, which was down from approaching 11,000 in March. I could have gotten a little bit more than that done, especially in the film review side of things. But overall, like it was decent. I only started to catch up on a lot of this stuff in the last like week or so. The first half of the month, I didn't end up writing very much. But so for book review related stuff, I got just about 5,900 words written, spread between, what is it, like 6 reviews. I reviewed Percy Jackson's Greek Gods and A Memory of Light. Alongside A Memory of Light, I also reviewed 4 shorter bits of bonus material for The Wheel of Time. So all of those combined to nearly 6,000 words. I intended to also finish writing / rewriting my review for Infinite Jest in April so that I could post a review about it in May, and let's just say that did not happen. I did not have time for that, unfortunately. I honestly have no idea if I'm ever going to make a review for Infinite Jest, but you know, pipe dream, it could happen, fingers crossed. And then I also have another review that I need to write for The Sparrow as well. In progress, on the gaming side of things, I wrote around 800 words this month for my review of Ghost of Yote, but that review is still in progress. I would guess I'm maybe like a third of the way through that review, all things considered, but that review is going to be made into a video later in May, so I do need to finish that here sooner than later. I was hoping to be done with it already, but I am making pretty decent progress on that nonetheless. 0 words for film review related stuff, unfortunately. The Project Hail Mary is still waiting a review, and The Passion of the Christ now is awaiting a review over there as well. And come the end of May, I also have a few more reviews that I'm going to need to write as well. But we'll talk about all of that in due time, probably in the next State of Affairs or in another video that I plan to post on the second channel in May. As for music-related stuff, I also wrote nearly 1,700 words reviewing 15 different albums and EPs over the month, but I didn't use those words for anything because I just haven't been updating my music board because music board has been broken most of the year, so I kind of gave up on it. I've been continuing to write reviews for all of the music that I listen to. It's just not been being posted anywhere, and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with all of that. But that is all that I have to say with regards to the explicit writing statistics. Let's talk about what I've got going on this month. And a little bit of this is going to be wrapping up sort of how April went to a certain degree and to a certain extent. Some of this is also slightly repeated information from one of my Fortnite on the Isle videos that I posted, probably the video from last week if I'm not mistaken at this point. What's going on in my real life that as of recent and moving forward? Well, in April, I did take a short trip that kind of caused a lot of my work-related stuff to be pushed back by a couple of weeks. That trip definitely did me in a lot more than I anticipated it doing so. And so that was something that happened. And I also will be taking another trip in May. Basically, what is today? What is the day that this video comes out? On the 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? I think so. In which case, later this week, I will also be taking another trip that will last for a handful of days as well. That one probably won't do me in quite as much as the one in April did, but I should be able to update on that trip in the next fortnight on the Isle, which should happen next week, because I plan to be back in time to record that like the night before it's supposed to go up. We'll see if that actually works out, fingers crossed. The other thing that happened in April is that I started my new job with High Matter Books, and it is time to buckle down on a little bit more of what's going on with that come May this month, basically. Just as a result of that, I'm mostly just going to be adjusting to my work-life balance, or work balance if you want to look at it that way, because I can never stop working on something for the most part. For the most part, I've got a handful of things that I am currently tackling right now, some of which are going successfully, some of which I'm just starting. Things like getting in my personal reading time alongside the work that I do directly for High Matter Books, and that's been going pretty decently. I'm relearning how to best take advantage of like my free time outside of work hours. It's something that it turns out being unemployed for 9+ months kind of kills the natural instinct that I had to be able to balance my actual job versus my own personal work. That balance was completely killed over the last 9-10 months. So I'm relearning how to deal with that. I've been taking care of more things around the house with my dad a little bit recently as well this year, because my mom is currently away with one of my brothers across the country, helping him deal with some personal stuff that he's got going on. So dad and I are adjusting in our personal lives in that way without mom around the house. And that's been something that's been a lot of an adjustment, that's for sure. Furthermore, I've also been starting to eke in some of my video and review production work in the evenings as well. Like I mentioned earlier, taking advantage of that work-life balance, the free time outside of work hours. I've been tending to do some of this outside of those work hours. Watching basketball in the evenings mostly is when I've been able to work on some of that stuff, and it's been going pretty well. We'll see how that continues to hold up through May. And also, another point that I've noticed is that my weekends also look way different than they used to, because they actually exist. Again, turns out that being unemployed for quite a while kind of shattered my perception of time. I had like the Sundays, which were pretty solid because I went to church those mornings, so I knew what day it was. But like the other 6 days of the week, I just was kind of in a whatever type of state, right? As opposed to now, I actually have a weekend that I have to look forward to, and basically have to plan doing the bulk of my work around. That's basically what I'm doing right now. I'm recording a whole bunch of videos this first weekend of May, and getting them all ready before I have to deal with a work week. And then, like I said, a little bit of a trip that I'm taking later in the week. So just readjusting and adjusting to various different sides of life, basically. As for some additional goals that I have, things that I'm working on at the moment, I was doing pretty great with spiritual-based stuff in late February and March for the most part. Unfortunately, I did fall off a little bit in April, so as for like a personal life thing, I'm aiming to reintroduce some of that back into my life in May, because I definitely fell off that bandwagon in April because of honestly, I'm not entirely sure why. Just April was a weird month for me, man. And additionally to that, I'm debating introducing a sort of Sabbath-like practice into my life as well. Not entirely sure if May will be the month that I start doing that thing. It'll probably not be for a couple months, but I'm looking into what that kind of thing might look like for me. Who knows? A current midterm type of project that I'm dealing with right now is like dealing with some personal asset libraries, if you want to call them that, meaning I'm basically in the midst of updating my Goodreads currently to basically be my database for all of the books that I own, plus some other stuff that I don't, by authors who I do plan to read everything for, basically books that I plan to buy at some point but don't currently own. The point is, on Goodreads, I updated my personal library database there with all of the audiobooks that I own. I got through all of that like maybe even late in March, but I did recently finish updating all that with my physical library, and I will soon be dealing with my digital library over there. Unfortunately, there's as many digital books there as all of the audiobooks and physical books and non-owned books combined, unfortunately. So that's gonna take a little while to continue dealing with, and once I'm done with Goodreads anyway, I'll also be doing a pretty similar thing with my video game library, because that's also something that I need to get a hold of so that I don't buy games duplicates between different platforms, because I've noticed I've done that with a few titles because I didn't realize I had them on another platform because I don't have a library, and because I like doing that kind of thing. That's something I got from my mom, just enjoying making like databases of stuff that I have. I don't know what particular thing. You could probably blame that on my autism to a certain degree, but I definitely like doing that kind of thing. So I've been dealing with my personal libraries there and going to continue doing that until it's done anyway, because after it's done, my mind is on circling back to writing stuff again. After a very long time, and I know I've said this a lot over the last couple of years, and it never really seems to happen, but my mind is circling back to doing some writing stuff again. It's probably nothing comes of it until after I deal with the libraries, some of these other tasks that I've talked about, until I have a solid routine and habit built up for all of those things, and that's fine. But I would like to get back onto the train of actually writing stuff again, like formally, and make it a habit to write. I think it'll be time to make writing regularly a thing again pretty soon. And the reason why this is like coming up now, not just because of all the other stuff that I got that I would like to, be dealing with in my life, and I want to add one more thing because I'm a crazy person, but really it's because I had occasion recently, on account of hiring for my new job, to go through my library of writing ideas that I already had and all of that kind of stuff associated with it. I already mentioned above there was a new short story for the Tributaries that I'm working on the structural outline for and doing some of the story development for that in my free time. I've been really wanting to circle around to like actually writing that. I do want to write that story. I've been meaning to go back and finish writing and actually write the other two stories in the Tributaries for over a year now since I originated that project. Some of my friends also on Discord have a sort of informal writing group thing that they've been doing and going on with, just writing random short stories, just sharing it for the heck of it, not even necessarily for any reason other than to just write something. And so I think that joining along with something like that, writing random short stories even outside of the Tributaries, as a means of building a habit for writing, is something that I should get involved with. So I would like to do that, since all those people are my friends and we're all just kind of sharing stories with each other. That's something that sounds like a good plan to me. And there's also the fact that some of my other concepts I've been thinking a lot about recently as well. I went back into, I re-entered my Reign of Ash document for the first time in almost a year and a half at this point. That project's been laying dormant for a year and a half, and I really want to get back on the Reign of Ash. It's been so long since I've worked on it. I'm kind of ashamed by how much time I've been away from it, and I've also been continuing to have idea developments for what I'm considering in my head to be my magnum opus. I know I'm just rambling at this point. Basically, if I can get a grasp on my day-to-day life, I need to start writing again soon, and being associated with Christopher Rocchio directly, with his work directly, and kind of his work process in a slightly more involved way, has kind of inspired the writer in me that he needs to wake up and actually do something again. I've been just confronted with how little of my own work I've done, and so if I can get a handle on all of the other stuff that I'm working on in my personal life, I would like to build a habit for writing in my free time again and actually pursue that semi-seriously, because that story that I wrote and put on the third channel back in February was something that meant a lot to me, and it's still maybe the most proud I've been of anything that I've ever produced at all, is just that story. And if I could do more things like that, that would be really, really awesome. You know, I'm gonna love working with Christopher's worlds, his work, his lore and stuff like that, but I want to work on some of my own stuff too, and so I'd like to be able to do that in my free time if I can. I know that the end of this video is very rambling on that topic, and I apologize for it, but if you're somebody who listened through it, if you're somebody who's been around on the channel since a year and a half ago or more, since the last time I talked about actually properly working on the Reign of Ash, I think the last time I properly worked on it was well over a year and a half ago at this point, like Doombot expressed a lot of excitement about that back in the day, we'll say. I just haven't worked on it in a while, and I would like to fix that. But thank you to anybody who watched this video. My apologies again for rambling, but I needed to ramble about that. Hopefully the next one of these State of Affairs is a little bit more condensed, because this one managed to be very condensed until I started talking about some of this month's stuff. I won't say I'm sorry for the 50th time in this section. For now, I'll just say I've been your host, King Crusoe. You can call me Casey, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.